Good evening, welcome live to ringside, the WBO Super Middleweight Championship of the World. Chris Eubank and Tulani Sugarboy Malinga going to the Prime Network in the USA and the South African Broadcasting Corporation from the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham in the heart of England. I'm David Brenner, alongside me at ringside the former WBA Featherweight Champion of the World, Barry McGuigan. Well, the big question mark, of course, tonight hangs over Eubank's attitude to this fight. As I said at the show opening, it's been 5 months since that epic with Michael Watson, 5 months for Chris Eubank to come to terms with himself. That fight is due off in 1 hour's time, but before that, we have another championship bout to set before you, the light middleweight championship of the Commonwealth. Chris Pyatt of England defending against the unbeaten Ambrose Milo of Zimbabwe. Chris Pyatt out of action for a year since losing to John David Jackson for the world title. Well, he returned in Leicester against the Australian Craig Trotter. This was for the vacant Commonwealth title. This is round one. Pyatt in the lime green. The left hook decking the Australian in the very first session. But all credit to the tough Aussie. He got up, went the full 12-round trip. But in the end, though, there can only be one winner. Chris Pyatt, an overwhelming winner against the Australian. Chris Pyatt, now the Commonwealth light middleweight champion. Well, that is the first fight that we've got lined up for you tonight. Pyatt against Milo for the Commonwealth light middleweight championship. And Barry, I guess, for Chris Pyatt against the unbeaten Zimbabwe fighter, it's one that he just can't afford to lose if he still harbours world title ambitions.
Right, this is a very important fight for him. He must win this fight. If he hopes to fight again for a world title, he's already fought Davidson for the WBO light middleweight title. If he wants to fight for a title again, he's got to win this one, and he's got to win it in style because you know, he wants to prove to himself that he can do it again. And he certainly has the punch. In his last fight, he started off brilliantly but finished fairly poorly. And he won on points, but he wasn't, I know himself that he wasn't as impressed with it as he would like to have been. But this is, I don't know enough about this guy, but you can rest assured that the Zimbabwean is a tough guy, for sure.
Yes, 10 fights, 10 wins. Interestingly enough, our statistician, George Zeleny, the editor of Boxing Outlook magazine, does not rate him in the Commonwealth top 10, but nevertheless, 10 fights, 10 wins, 4 of them by the short route. And he is the reigning middleweight champion of Zimbabwe at the moment. Beat a boxer with the great name of Night Show for that title. Here comes Chris Pyatt, the former British and European light middle champion. 3 defeats in his record early in his career against Sabiyala Diavila. Stopped him in 4 rounds. That was in September '85. And Gianfranco Rosi and, of course, John David Jackson have also beaten him.
Welcome to the first boxing event at the new £50 million National Indoor Arena here in Birmingham. A warm welcome to our viewers in the UK on Screen Sport, in Holland and Belgium on Sportsnet, Germany,
MC, an old mate of mine from Radio Days, George Gavin, from the local commercial station here in Birmingham, BRMB.
Asia Star TV. And our listeners on BRMB Local Radio, Mercia Sound and Leicester Sound in the Midlands. This for the light middleweight championship of the Commonwealth. Over 12 3-minute rounds. And introducing to you, first of all, the challenger in the red corner from Zimbabwe, Ambrose Milo. And ladies and gentlemen, the reigning Commonwealth champion from Leicester in the Midlands, Chris Pyatt! At the weigh-in this morning, ladies and gentlemen, at the Grand Hotel in Birmingham at 10 a.m, Milo weighed in at 10 stone, 11.5 pounds. Pyatt weighed in at 11 stones exactly. Well,
Pyatt right on the light middle limit of 11 stone. That's 154 pounds. And the Zimbabwean Ambrose Milo coming in at 151.5.
Yeah, fairly light to be the middleweight champion of his country, but well developed around the chest, strong looking guy. Know nothing about him, so it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Well, Chris Pyatt had been out of action for 13 months between fighting John David Jackson for the world title and Craig Trotter for the Commonwealth title. He was a little bit rusty, said so himself in the Trotter fight. We'll look for better things tonight. Both boys wearing red. Now you can separate the two. Pyatt with the dreadlocks and the white boxing boots, and Milo with the yellow boxing boots. Referee, incidentally, Paul Thomas.
Zimbabwe has a taller, or has a longer reach. Seems to be slightly taller than Pyatt, and certainly looks to have the longer reach, but he's not snapping that jab out at all.
Oh, Pyatt, infinitely the more experienced of these two boxers, had 34 fights to Malilo's 10.
Very solid puncher, Pyatt, when he gets close to you, so very important to use the jab to keep him off, because when he gets in that powerful back of his, got tremendous power in his back. And short punches are always the more telling punches for him. So Milo has got to get that jab going. He's slow opening round for him. He's just keeping his hands up in a peekaboo style. So very little punches at all up to now. He's keeping us all guessing here, David. He's showing us nothing. He's throwing no punches at all.
You know, you get the feeling with Milo coming in at 151.5, he could make welter without undue problems. He looks more like a welter.
He's very crude up to now. He's not showing us anything at all. He hasn't even thrown that right hand. He's pawed with the left. Very dangerous thing to do with someone that can punch as stiffly as Pyatt.
Well, it's the African fighter's first excursion away from home, and he's bound to be a little bit intimidated. Strange arena, big crowd, different conditions, and it's cold.
You can rest assured that he's cold, the poor fella.
Yeah, it's quite a good positive opening round by Pyatt. And he's obviously being a little bit cagey. He doesn't want to get suckered into anything early. A quick word between rounds, in case you're unfamiliar with the scoring system, particularly those of you watching this on the Prime Network in the United States. When we have the world title fight, the scoring will be familiar to you, but in this Commonwealth title fight, only the referee will score, and we operate a 10-point must system, 10 points to the winner, but the loser of a round gets 9.5 points, or if there's a knockdown or the round is very one-sided, the loser will get 9 points, and only the referee scores. Referee Paul Thomas and his score will decide this contest, if that should be necessary, at the end of 12 rounds, and of course the point scoring will be announced.
The Zimbabwean was drinking the water, very early to be drinking the water.
He looks very listless, I must say.
Yeah, I wonder has he dragged his weight down in the last couple of weeks, because you know, it's unusual. He has thrown no punches at all in the early round, in the first round there, and I mean it's just puts a doubt in my mind as to whether he's had trouble making the weight.
Well, maybe he's overdone it. He came in, what was it, some 2.5, yes, 2.5 pounds, which may not sound a lot, but believe me, it's enough. Pyatt, superbly conditioned, bang in, 11 stone, 154 pounds.
Pyatt's got to be careful not to bang heads with this guy, because he's dropping his head. Could end up with a bad cut. The problem Milo is now exposing himself. Once he starts throwing punches, Pyatt will start connecting, because he's got the more experience.
Pyatt hurt him with the left.
More accurate puncher of the two. Yeah, looks very listless, Milo. No snapping him or stinging his punches at all.
And Pyatt fancies this.
Yeah, he's just doing a job on this guy. At the moment, it's just like an easy sparring partner.
Milo is not renowned as a big puncher. Of his 10 fights, just 4 inside the distance. And Pyatt is such a step up in class from the boys he's been accustomed to meeting.
He's certainly an easy opponent. If you really wanted to end this fight earlier, he should try and work on Malilo's body, hang his body. But if he's had weight trouble, there's a good. Oh, actually, I didn't see that. It was his back covered me, so he actually hit him low there.
And I've got to say, with the greatest of respect to Milo, he's hardly thrown a punch worthy of the name in these opening 2 rounds. He's almost pawing at Pyatt, and this has contributed to Pyatt's confidence. He's just walking through at the moment.
Oh, he's making a very dangerous mistake. He's leaving his arms out there. Watch when he throws the punches. There's no snapping that jab. He's leaving it lying out there, which is dangerous.
Just a slip.
Pyatt's using every punch on him in the book except the left jab. Hasn't been using the jab, just working his body or working his head over with short hooks. You should get the jab up to the head and bang that body with those short left hooks and right hands. But if that is all Milo has to offer, I don't think Pyatt is in any trouble here.
Well, here is Ambrose Milo. Last fight was in October of '91 when he defended his Zimbabwe middleweight title against that splendidly named gentleman Knight Show, and he outpointed him over 10 rounds. He's been Zimbabwe middleweight champion since the end of June 1990. Chris Pyatt, well,
10 seconds.
He's been British champion, European champion, now Commonwealth champion, fought unsuccessfully against John David Jackson for the world title. Jackson outpointed him, and I've got to say, outpointed him quite comprehensively. There were no arguments from me that night. Third round then, Pyatt in the white boxing boots and Milo in the yellow boxing boots.
Malilo's got to start throwing punches if he wants to get into this fight at all. If he wants to keep Pyatt off him, he's got to start sticking that left jab out and putting the right hand after it with a bit more speed than he has been doing, because there's no snapping his punches at all. Pyatt's been coming over the top, hooking him with short left hooks, chopping rights, and now he's trying the uppercut. From Pyatt's point of view, he's got to snap that jab at him and then cut him up around the body, bang those left hooks into the body, and then bring them up top.
I think the African's cut. I think he's cut right eye. He's turned side on for me at the moment. It's difficult.
Oh, beautiful right hand. That's a perfect
down.
Right, right down the pipe. Perfect right hand, right through that high defence. Great shot.
There's no mandatory 8 count here in Britain.
Yeah.
Here comes the end. Pyatt's a good finisher.
Yeah, good short puncher, and should be able to finish this job well. Referee's said that's enough.
That's enough. Milo says, what's it all about? And has a little go at Paul Thomas, but no doubt he was completely outclassed by Pyatt. And Pyatt wins with a referee's intervention, a stoppage in round 3, what you in the United States call a TKO.
Yeah, Malilo's legs are still gone. He's completely outclassed. He wasn't in the same league as Pyatt.
No, it was a good decision by Paul Thomas to stop that.
Absolutely.
Let's take a look at it again, Barry.
Yeah, watch his right hand down the middle now. He's got a high guard, and this right hand travels straight through the middle, hit him on the side of the nose. That was enough to take those legs away completely.
So Pyatt retains his Commonwealth title. His record now reads 34 fights, 32 wins, and 26 inside the distance.
Ambrose Milo.
And Milo, well, if he had any illusions about what it's like to fight a world-class fighter, now he knows. Posing for the photographers while he does that. We're going to take a short break. We'll have more live action for you from Birmingham here on Pro Box in just a couple of moments. Welcome back live to ringside at the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham. David Brenner, Barry McGuigan with you. Coming up in not so very long now, the main event, the WBO Super Middleweight Championship of the World. Chris Eubank defending his title and his unbeaten record against Tulani Sugarboy Malinga.